So then moving on over to the Giants series, the Padres are going to be having Blake Snell out there on Friday against Stefani. I will be attending that game. I am super excited. Sitting way up in the nosebleeds, but always good to go to not AT&T Park anymore. Actually, it's Oracle Park now. So I haven't been in a couple years, but I'm super excited for that. Then on Saturday we got Musgrove versus Gausman, and then Sunday the Giants are pitching Cueto, the Padres pitcher, to be determined at this point. But what do you think about these pitching matchups? There's been many series early on this year where the Padres have had to play the top arms of the opposing teams. And same thing here. You're going up against the Giants' three best starters. So how do you think the Padres bats are going to fare after a Pirate series where they struggled quite a bit?
Like I said, we're in a new park. Oracle Stadium's pretty spacious. Since we have a lot of left-handed hitters, they got that triples alley out in right field. So I'm guessing our batters are going to fare a little bit better because they're probably not going to try to hit a bunch of home runs. They're probably just going to aim to make contact. And if it falls in the right places, that's a lot of extra base hits. Though we have struggled against Desclafani and Gaussman, I think this is, our third time now seeing them that they'll fare a little bit better against them. Hopefully, you don't ever want to watch the Padres get shut out. It's not fun to watch. So, hopefully the bats come alive. We get some extra base hits. They play aggressive baseball, and our pitching continues to dominate.
Yeah, and I think that I think everyone's eager to see the Padres bats just break out. I would love for it to happen this series, especially because next series is in Colorado, and we know some of these guys in the Padres love hitting at Colorado, especially Will Myers. So hopefully we kind of get some guys. Maybe they don't go off this series, but just a little bit more like, hey, they're getting about 4 runs a game. I think that will do it for you if you're in these series. If you can average 4 runs a game against this 1, 2, 3 of the Giants, I think that'd be spectacular. Really want to see Blake Snell go out there and pitch really well. He hasn't I don't want to say he's struggled early on, but he hasn't looked great. And so I just kind of wonder how he looks. A lot of it's been about control issues, in my opinion, just because he'll go in there. It'll be, oh, look, went through the first 2 innings pretty easily. Third inning rolls around, gets the first 2 outs, and then he walks 2 guys, and then someone hits a double. And it's like, all right, that was all he gave up. But then the rest of the game, it's like there's constantly runners on. And so he's kind of struggled in just keeping guys off base. Not that he's allowing a ton of runs, but I believe his whip's around like 1.4, so pretty high early on. I expect that to go down a little bit, but I mean, if he can start pitching a little bit deeper in the games, that'd be huge because right now he's not even averaging 4 1/3 innings. Now, he did have the start earlier this year where he got pulled in the first, so that of course is going to affect it. But overall, I think if he can kind of go, match up with DeSclafani and in that Friday series, I think that could kind of provide a little bit of a spark. Like, hey, we got this guy that's been struggling, and he just bounced back in this opening game. So I think I think that Friday game will kind of dictate how the series will go. And then also, this is a series I think that everyone is really excited to see the Padres go out there and win this series because the winner of this series is going to hold first place. So if you go out there and you take 2 or 3 from the Giants, the Padres will be sitting in first place. So do you think this is just a really important series to win, Chase? And I know I've talked about it before. I know it's only May, but I think it would look nice to be sitting in a top first place as the sole leader.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with the Dodgers and how they've been struggling the way they have these past few games. I think it's more important now than ever that we need to solidify first place. We need to take it away from the Giants. We need to continue to win these, interdivisional league games because if we do that, if we just boost ourselves in the standings a lot more. And we got to take advantage while the Dodgers are struggling. We can't let this opportunity slip by because if we do that, we know the Giants probably by the end of the season are going to be battling out for third and fourth with the Diamondbacks. And if we can take this away and kind of just start running away with first, it's going to make it really hard for the Dodgers to catch up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're spot on when you talk about capitalizing when the Dodgers are kind of struggling. Let's get some room. Let's get some breathing room. I mean, I would love to see them looking down at the end of May, looking at the Dodgers and going, "Hey, we got 5 games on them right now. Let's keep it going." We got a lot of arms coming back and just kind of build a lot of momentum because like we said earlier, the bats haven't really been looking that great. But if you can be 5 games ahead of the Dodgers 2 months into the year, that's huge for this team. I mean, and we talked about this, I think, in the offseason that being in the Padres situation, it's really scary because if you are that wild card team, there's a chance that you have to go play Jake DeGrom. and that is not ideal at all. And I don't want to see them go in a one-game wild card against DeGrom. I think that you would agree with that, Chase. He's looked pretty nasty. So winning this division is massive, especially because they decided not to go with the 18 playoffs, which I was really hoping for. I know that there's some people that don't like it and stuff. I was hoping it solely for the Padres' sake that they just didn't have to go and play that one-game wild card series. Because I feel like the Dodgers have shown that they are probably that they are the best roster in the league. Now, both the Padres and the Dodgers have battled a ton of injuries early on, so that's kind of been the reason why. But let's kind of talk about the Giants a little bit. They've started out the year pretty hot, and I just want to know, like, how do you think they're going to fare for the rest of this season, and more specifically, like, how are the Padres going to match up with them as the year goes on?
For the Giants, I think their most important part is if that Desclafani and Gaussman continue to pitch how they've been pitching. Like, if they've done that, they are probably going to win 2 out of 3 games in a series, and being able to prevent a 3 or 4 losses in a row, and then have your top 2 or 3 guys be out there and be like, you know what, we're going to play our best baseball behind these and take the next 3 games. They're going to need it. The Giants' bullpen's been pretty good. Their pitching staff has been amazing. So they're going to need to rely on their pitching staff. And if they start to struggle towards the latter half of the season, then you're going to see the Giants start to slide. And if they don't and the pitching continues, we can see 3 teams contending for, either the top 2 spots in the league or in the NL, and maybe even possibly take 2 of those wild card spots with how well the Giants have been playing at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility, especially when you look at how the Braves have kind of started, how the Mets have a losing record right now and are second in their division. So you kind of start looking at it and go, hey, like there's a chance if the Giants keep playing well, they could potentially make that wild card spot. So I mean, this is the team that we've talked about since the beginning, and we talked about this when we brought Leo Luna on, and we're just talking about like, hey, could there potentially be a Padres Giants rivalry in the future? And really, it was just like these teams always play scrappy baseball against each other. Even when one of them isn't very good, the games have always been awesome. I mean, especially for us growing up, I love watching Padres Giants game. And I'm not like some person that doesn't like the Giants. I've always rooted for them in the deep playoff runs, which is definitely weird because I mean I'm definitely a Padres fan. I've been a Padres fan my whole life, but the Giants always have that scrappy mentality, very similar to the Padres. So it's fun to watch these games. I think we should expect 3 lower scoring games in these and kind of look at who's on the mound. And for the Giants, it's their 1, 2, 3. So I think it's going to be pretty tough for the Padres to go out there and take 3. I'll say that right now. I would expect the series to go 2-1 Giants, and I don't think it's a worst case scenario thing. I think a series win for the Padres right now would be massive for them. I think that would help them so much. But I'll ask you to kind of wrap up this segment. Who's your breakout player this series for the Padres?
I still want to go Kim. I think he's gonna come around sooner or later, so I'm gonna continue riding that Kim wave.
I like it. And we were talking about Kim a whole bunch before. He's hitting under 200. He had a couple early errors or errors early on, but he's looked really good. I mean, like in terms of like we weren't expecting him to come out there and hit even over 250 at the beginning part of the season. I don't think he's gonna end the year with a very high batting average. I think anything over 200, 220 is a win for him this first season. A lot of adjustments have to be made, but last series he put how great of a defensive player he was on full display. Saved a couple runs in both those games, and he was spectacular on the defensive end, at shortstop, at third, at second, all over the infield. He has been really, really good. So I think that I love that as the breakout player. I think for me, I think I'm going to go Will Myers. I always feel like Will Myers looks pretty good at Oracle Park, and he hasn't been that great lately. Kind of been, just his average has dipped. He was hitting over 300 early, as he always does in those first couple weeks. I don't know what it is. He's like the best player in the first 2 weeks of baseball, and we talked about this before. But I think he's going to have a little bit of a bounce back series. On Wednesday night, he had an RBI, went 1 for 3. But I think this is the series where you see him kind of go opposite field into that center right field gap, and also maybe hit a couple over the wall in left field. He always plays well in San Francisco, I feel like. So I'm excited for him to break out. Hopefully you see him in that 5th, 6th spot, driving in some crucial runs, because a 3-run home run from him could be the difference in the game, where he has a 3-run home run and the Padres win the game 3-2. So I think that him having a good series can mean all the difference for the Padres, and I think it can put them over the top to win this series. But anything else you wanted to add before we kind of get into Mackenzie Gore here?
Hopefully, we continue to see Nola continue to hit the ball. He's finally back and he's got a couple clutch hits. Having him being able to hit at the catching position only helps the offense that much more. We all know that Nola's a solid hitter, so having him back is going to be a really big impact on the whole lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. And we didn't really talk about it in the recap for the Pirate series, but the catchers were providing the offense for us. I mean, Noel had an RBI in each of the first two games, then Caratini had the home run in the third. So credit for those guys coming through and coming in clutch and really getting some big knocks. Nola especially. I mean, he had that RBI double in the seventh on Monday night's game. So definitely good to bring those guys up. But I think that's going to do it for this Padres Giants preview.